Here's a relatively quick behind the scenes of my dinner with Skinner, aka Steamed Hams, but it's a critically acclaimed feature film. The idea of making what is essentially a feature-length version of Steamed Hams is kind of an obvious endgame for the meme, so it was something I had on the back burner for a while as a future goal. The question was, how do you stretch out a 3-minute bit about two guys having lunch into a feature? Make a parody of a feature about two guys having dinner. It's kind of all there in My Dinner with Andre, a guy who is having a meal with someone he generally avoids. Also, the rhyming title My Dinner with Skinner was just too juicy to pass on. I don't remember exactly when I made the initial connection, but I did start writing the script in April 2025. First off, I wanted everything to be canon and to reference only episodes before Season 7, Episode 21, which is the episode with the steamed hams bit. Although there are a couple exceptions regarding Chalmers' backstory. Thankfully, there are a few Simpsons wikis on the internet, as well as the Frinkiac, so I didn't have to skim through 7 whole seasons of The Simpsons looking for Skinner. I was able to go in knowing what the essential episodes were. There's kind of a nexus point in the middle of the script where Skinner discovers his roast is ruined and purchases fast food to disguise as his own cooking. All of Skinner's stories before this are from episodes before Season 4, Episode 20, which is the first appearance of Chalmers, and all of the stories after this scene are from later episodes. The earlier stories are in reverse chronological order, although the teacher strike tangent is from a later episode, Season 6, Episode 21. The later stories are in chronological order, ending with Season 7, Episode 15, which kind of serves as the framing story and reason for the luncheon in the first place, Chalmers dating Agnes. It took me about a week or two to compile all of this into a first draft. I sent it off to Regan, who has appeared in other projects of mine, a few of them as Skinner. He was down to do it, but I was concerned about finding a Chalmers. More on that in a bit. A vast majority of the film is really just 7 different shots. A wide, an over the shoulder for both actors, a closer over the shoulder, and close-ups. I didn't want to shoot 7 angles of coverage for the whole thing, so I recorded the script playing both characters myself and used it to make an animatic of the entire film.
He claimed barbershop was in danger of growing stale and wanted to take things to strange new places.
That kind of sounds like the
beleaguered situation of a band whose days were numbered. I know.
This let me figure out exactly what coverage I wanted to shoot. I made notes on my script, then turned that into a shooting script and shot list. While I was working on that, Regan had suggested Terrence, who he knew from an acting class. He showed me a photo and I was like, yes, ask him if he is interested. And fortunately he was. So at that point, this project really started looking like it could happen. We got together and did a few test shots in the middle of July and decided on early August to shoot all the interiors. That gave me about 3 weeks to get ready. And I think that tight deadline is the reason that it really all got done. No time to think, just do. I decided to make 8 set flats in total, 5 plain, 2 with doors, and 1 with a window. Of course, I picked an incredibly hot weekend to construct these things outside in my dad's backyard. I somehow avoided getting a sunburn and heat stroke, which was really nice given the time crunch. The set was assembled, primed, and painted using pieces of furniture mostly purchased through Facebook Marketplace, the only useful thing about Facebook. I decorated the space. Most of the props and decor were actually made and or procured before the building of the set. On Chalmers' side of the room, I made a set of 3 Storm and Norman commemorative plates. On the table, and not actually visible in the final film, a pack of Lady Laramie cigarettes. On the back wall, there's Skinner's POW and Vietnam service medals, with a group photo I found online altered to have Skinner's face in it. There's a well-known staged photo of an American POW sloppily shopped to add in Regan's face and hands holding a bowl of soup. There are also a few royalty-free images I tweaked to basically play the part of Agnes. Then there's a framed copy of Principles World magazine with Skinner on the cover. On Skinner's side of the room, the B Sharp's album cover, a photo of a barbershop quartet I scraped off the internet, and the Grammy statue. It's 3D printed, and I didn't document building any of it. Like most of this stuff, it just had to look good enough to be in the background. There's also a photo of Skinner, the Board of Education, and some books that I made fake covers for, including The Truth About Whacking Day by Bob Woodward, The Stonecutter's Secret World History, William Shatner's Tech War, which the children have to learn about sooner or later, and Happiness is a Naked Steve Allen. There's a photo of Comet Kohoutek and a Stonecutter's Stein, which I crafted from a basic ceramic stein and 3D printed lid. For the bottle of wine, I was going to replicate the Chateau Maison label from the show, but wasn't really happy with how it was turning out and ended up recreating it more in the style of a classic French wine label. For the nerds, I used a Blackmagic Ursa Mini 4K with a set of vintage Nikon AIS prime lenses. Since I was replicating 16mm film, 4K was really unnecessary, so I just shot most of it at 1080p, which really helped keep the storage requirements under control. Lights were primarily a couple of Godox SL60W LED fixtures. I was going for a hard lighting look, so I used them with just reflectors and no diffusion. I put them up on C-stands in this sort of arrangement to get that edge lighting look that's found in My Dinner with Andre. I would have preferred to fly the lighting down over the set walls, but I didn't have enough room for this, so I had to keep moving the lights around when I changed setups, and as a result, the lighting is a little all over the place, but yeah, whatever. For sound, I used a Rode NTG3 shotgun mic running into the Ursa. The crew was just myself. Stupid, right? More space and some extra hands would have been better, but I didn't want to have to wrangle more people on such a short notice or rent a space. We shot 4 full days, about 7 to 8 hours each, 2 back to back, 3 days off, then 2 more back to back. Another half day was used to pick up a few shots and to get a little bit of ADR. Over the following few weeks, we had some half days, like 2 to 3 hours each, where we shot the exteriors as well as a couple interior shots with the set rearranged. I edited the entire project in Final Cut Pro, with a couple effects shots done in Apple Motion. Not the greatest looking composites, but they get the job done. As I do with a lot of projects, I used freesound.org as my source for public domain Foley and sound effects. The end credit music was done in GarageBand. I rendered the final edit out in 1080p, then brought it into a 4K project. I did a little bit of color adjustments, cooler shadows, warmer midtones, and a tinge of yellow to the highlights. I added a slight blur to soften everything, then a bit of sharpening to bring back some of the edges. For the gate weave, I motion tracked an old instructional film about data processing. On top of that, I used a couple 4K 16mm film grain scans. I have a fine grain Kodak and a heavier grain Fujifilm, and I think the result is pretty convincing and also holds up well to YouTube's video compression. I EQ'd the audio and added some compression to give it kind of that narrow, crunchy analog sound.
I came close to madness trying to find it here in the States, but
And I threw in some tape hiss for good measure. I'm not sure where I can go from here vis-a-vis steamed hams. I do enjoy making them, don't get me wrong. They are always an interesting and rewarding challenge. Every time I make one, I try to look for some new ways at looking at the bit, as well as a new filmmaking or animation technique. But this is probably it for the foreseeable future. Although, I might have to come back at some point and show everyone how it's done. Right now I'm working on a new short with a similar vibe to my Dr. Monster video. I'm pitching an idea for a music video and chipping away at some writing. I would love to make a legit-ish feature with a crew, like a small crew, like a very small crew. Perhaps I'll put together something and beg you all for the money to make it happen. So stay tuned.